Recording. Oh, give me that. I'm gonna forge it and waste not even.
All right, we're live.
All right. Wonderful. And I will hold this one up. All right, excellent.
Are we live then? We are, right?
Yep, we're live.
Okay, so hello, my friends, and Dinaway Magadachuk, hello, my relatives. We've been working on a hemp curriculum at Winona's Hemp and Anishinaabe Agriculture Institute because we are all asking a lot of questions like, what does this magical plant do? You know, how do we learn about it? How do you process the magical plant? Who processed it? All kinds of things that you want to know when you're coming to learn like a new friend, like a plant like this. So anyway, this is Kira Bingham, and she and I have been working together we met last year, and it's been really, really awesome. And so this is our draft hemp curriculum. And I just want to say it's kind of where we're at, but it's intended for tribal colleges. And and then it's also really kind of focused on fiber. We didn't get too much of the THC. You know, we figured somebody's knows more about that. They should do that. But so I just want to present our curriculum and have my dear friend present it and introduce herself if she got more to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Winona. I hope everyone can hear me well. My name is Kira. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. I am a student at the University of Toronto, and I've started working with Winona last summer, as she said. We've been working a bit on some hemp curriculum to kind of usher in this green new revolution, as Winona talks about it, and connect the ideas of the hemp to the ideas of a just transition or just recovery from COVID. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the kind of bare bones that we have here, and then just hear about kind of what people are interested in. So to start, the curriculum is intended for kind of a tribal college age, but we started out actually in the fall with a workshop that was meant for the high school age youth, a few who are pictured here, that they learned while they were doing the hempcrete building on the farm. And they kind of did like a read through of all of the information about what hemp is, and they've been kind of living and like learning about the hemp on the farm, but this was meant to supplement that and has grown from there. So this is kind of a brief outline of the things that we were trying to capture in this like hemp uses curriculum. Alongside, we also have a just transitions curriculum that kind of brings the ideological of that, and this is more the practical of the hemp. So a lot of our work here is based off this great task force report that was written by the University of Washington in 2018. But we've done a bit of research to bring it up to speed to 2020 since the last farm bill was written and hemp was fully legalized for industrial purposes. And also with all the great developments that have been going on in kind of the tribal hemp policy and infrastructure world. So like really brief, these are kind of going to be throughout the next 30 minutes mentioned are the hemp history and agronomy, hemp plant uses, as in like the ecosystem goods. So talking a bit about hemp and phytoremediation, some case studies around that, and industrial restoration. The hemp fiber uses. So we focused on textiles a lot, and then things that can be kind of derived from the textiles and the fiber. So car parts, batteries, and supercapacitators, building insulation, and then hemp inner core and woody hurd. So that's like kind of like broken middle parts. We talked about hemp pole and hempcrete as well. I'm getting a little sound feedback. Oh, cool. And then last we have the hemp seed uses. So that's things to do kind of with food and the oils, sort of the value added products that are often used in CBDs, but we focus a little less on that. And then last, we linked all of this to the larger areas of hemp infrastructure and hemp tribal policy as it's developing today and so on. So first we started kind of like with what the hemp plant is, and we broke down each of the different parts and kind of talk about the different, this is a photo that's taken from this incredible resource produced by the Parsons Healthy Materials Lab. It's their hemp and lime booklet. And they have like these beautiful graphics. So it talks about the flowers and seeds and each of their different kind of component parts and what they can potentially become, a few of which we kind of go into detail on, things that Winona has been working on at the Hemp and Heritage Farm and through AI are the focus areas. So first, this is kind of just like a picture to contextualize it within Winona's project. This is a picture from last August down at the hemp farm. We start off with like kind of a little definition of the difference between hemp and marijuana, or like what is now being like, that's a name going out of use, as people probably heard, but smoking like weed or something, like we have to differentiate it for like the age group so that you kind of understand that these are different strains, that they have different biological components, and that they can do different things as different strains can. So it's kind of it starts with a brief biology, and then in that kind of biology section, we talk about the benefits of the ecology of the hemp plant. So how hemp is being used and seen as potentially this really promising resource to remediate things like old minefields or nuclear waste sites. It's been studied for oil fields even. These are all things that industrial hemp has the potential to possibly do in addition to whatever it's being harvested for. So it's a really promising in terms of having like a front end benefit along with like carbon sequestration. And that's kind of important to highlight along with all of the other uses we know for it afterwards. So these are the kind of typical use, like a timeline of the hemp plant. It's important to understand with the harvest and like knowing where, like which points the hemp is matured to harvest it, like to get multiple uses, or if you're only doing a single use. That's the stuff I know a little less about, but is obviously important to like understand in a kind of a holistic way. And again, this is a beautiful source drawing from the Parsons Healthy Material Lab. Very grateful for the drawing. And then after that, we talk about kind of historic infrastructure, what exists, what doesn't exist, why that is. We focus specifically here on this slide just on Minnesota, because that's the context where the state that we're working in. But that it's important to put all of this like ideas of hemp growing and hemp infrastructure in context, because as we've discussed a lot today, those things don't exist due to the illegalization of hemp and like cannabis as more generally a plant. So that's an important context to like grasp and understand, to see like as this is an emergent industry, to put that like in its economic context as well. Then next, we're going to talk about kind of hemp processing and understanding that that infrastructure is like there, but kind of spacey, like the hemp processing, its historical methods, more hands-on methods versus more mechanized methods. Here we have some pictures of like historical hemp operations and hemp processing. And then we go into the uses of the different parts of the hemp plant. So obviously we're going to talk about the stalk and separate it from the vast fiber and the hurd. So those are like the three main components. I know some places do it more specific, but those are kind of the different areas that we broke it up into. So from there, we talk about specifically fiber, because as Winona talked about a lot today, we're interested in larger scale fiber operations that go towards kind of canvas production or clothing production. So putting that in the context of the fiber industry, because a lot of research is being done on the economics of the emergent hemp fiber industry compared to things like synthetics and cotton, replacing plastics and really like water heavy crops such as cotton. So kind of putting hemp in that context and talking about the labor part of that, where all of these things have been offshored, bringing it back local. So just a general, again, like economics lesson mixed with like the kind of hemp storyline. Then we move on to our bast fiber, talk about some of the really awesome projects that have been going on in terms of like mixing and blending the hemp with wool, the potentials for those projects just within the so-called United States and the different kind of nations that are grouped here. And then also what that looks like on a more, oh, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, sorry. I just don't want to mess up the sound a little bit. And yeah, so that's the fiber. And then this is kind of this really great document, like graphic that we've used in a few of our other presentations, kind of just to give a context for what it can look like in terms of, oh, I think I lost my headphones. Let me know if you all can still hear me.
Yeah, I think we can still hear you.
Okay, awesome, thanks. Sorry about that. But yeah, so then this is kind of like, we want to just kind of give some ideas for what potential kind of business breakdowns or industry breakdowns look like. So there's a few sort of case studies on this and sort of writing about the policy and the current fiber industry and what the hemp fiber industry could look like. That's the next one. And then next we move into hempcrete, which is one that we've also been very, very interested in. As some of you might have attended or might be planning on attending the workshop with Roman. He ran the workshop I mentioned at the front end with the high schoolers and the middle schoolers. This is him building the hemp greenhouse. So this is a screenshot right here of our little like hempcrete kind of worksheet that went along with it as a kind of a reflection piece, a more informational piece. It had follow-up questions and kind of like just to get like a deeper understanding of like what the potentials for hempcrete are, and doing a kind of comparative case study to understand also, as I said earlier, that kind of bringing in the ideological part of the just transition and what does this look like compared to fossil fuels or more linear economies, talking about what's the difference between kind of concrete versus hempcrete, and that hempcrete sequesters carbon when it's growing, and after it's been dried, it sequesters carbon throughout its lifetime, versus concrete, which is one of those things that produces carbon and actually would be the 8th largest carbon producer in the world if it were a country. Like these are like these facts that kind of help bring the hemp into context as an industry within the just transition and this idea of like environmental restoration, as well as like just going forward a more circular economy. So this is another great graphic from the Hemp and Lime booklet by Parsons, and it just kind of gives a nice comparison that like if you compare it to concrete, it helps understand sort of like the cultivation process and the different parts of it that go into testing and installation and all of just like the forward motion of these different hempcrete economies. So this is like just really important to understand. And this booklet we leaned on a lot after I was introduced to it about a month ago, in terms of visualizing and explaining some of the processes. So these are just a few photos from the workshop that we held that are also used in our curricula if they're going to be paired with things that are hands-on. I think that that's kind of the idea to some extent, that the curricula would be like sort of informational and case studies, the numbers and the facts, but there would also be like hands-on component the way that Winona was able to do last winter or fall, I suppose. And this is just some photos of the great greenhouse that went up over there. And then moving into the more, I don't want to say more advanced, but things that seem more out of reach in terms of like really cool hemp developments. We move towards things like the car parts and the car batteries, like the electronic parts. So this is kind of a reference to the Henry Ford soybean car that a lot of people have heard about. It was like a mixture of soy and hemp, and it was allegedly fueled by like hemp ethanol, and kind of drawing that historical moment into like right now. So there's like a few like critical questions to think about infrastructure, and to think about like what's coming up now. So there's this guy who's doing Renew sports cars designs. If anyone's seen them, that's his pictures, the red car on the right. Really cool, would totally look it up. He's talked on kind of like the ways that farming and the Green New Revolution will like really be important in terms of climate change. But it's mostly decorative, it's not internal, it's all external work, but really cool stuff that I learned about when I was looking this up. And then next we have things like the batteries and the supercapacitors. This is one I don't know much about, but is definitely really important to consider in terms of alternative energy. The HempX Energy Systems was a group that Winona is coordinating with an amount, if you want to say anything on that. I think she's still working. And then our last section is mostly, or our second to last section on the uses is the hemp seeds. So talking about things like the edible parts, as well as like the oils, and the different potentials for using it for human consumption or for medicines or for animal feed. And then, oh, sorry, there she goes. And then the last bit being the kind of CBD hemp products, which we didn't talk about so much, but there is like a lot of mention in all of the texts that I drew together on kind of like how economically you can sometimes pair the CBD with like the other kinds of hemp processing, and that it's important to kind of put them together so that people know there's potential for either one, or you can do both if you like plan out your space or your timelines right. But these are just kind of like to offer as an example. And then there's also the hemp pasta and the hemp edibles. along this line of like consumables, kind of bring it to that level. The hemp pasta was produced, I think, late in the summer and the fall months of last year. And there's some projects that are kind of going towards developing that at White Earth. So again, kind of using this as a case study as like space for opportunity and for people to just understand the kind of wide range of what these hemp economies could end up developing. And then lastly is a section that still needs quite a bit of fleshing out. And so I'm very open to suggestions, is more on the tribal hemp policy and infrastructure section. So sort of updates on the current status of hemp regulations, testimonials from farmers who've had different experiences with the hemp and like navigating hemp rules in different parts of the US, especially different states because it's still state by state. And then also the tribal regulations are very different. So this was really a collection of kind of all of the resources that one might start at to begin to understand the landscape of hemp regulation wherever they're living or wherever they're planning their project, and what kind of funding or rules are they fall under after the 2018 Farm Bill passed. So that is kind of like the sum of it, I believe. So we have quite a bit of time for questions and answers. And I included a little bit of kind of the really cool case study writing that was done on Winona's farm up in White Earth. And this is kind of like, these are also kind of materials that could be used when we're talking about case studies and just using things as like examples to present as what developing a hemp economy looks like and why it's important, and how it can help develop the regional and food economies in the area and as well. Yeah. So that's all we have there. I see that a few questions came up, and I would love to point those to Winona if you can answer them.
Can you hear me?
Add?
Okay, I just want to add a couple things really quick.
Mhm.
And the main thing is like, so I think you said this, but it's like, this is intended as an overview,
Mhm.
but each of those pieces, you know, is a class, right? Hempcrete is like, you know, so, but we really wanted to, like, everybody at this conference and everybody in Indian country is saying a lot of questions about hemp. And so our intention is really to just really be able to provide that in a way that's helpful, you know, for our nations.
All right. So one person asked about hemp used in land remediation. If you have any familiarity with that, Winona. I know you talked about it a little bit in the fiber section earlier with Aaron.
Okay. Land bioremediation?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, there's some work going on that, and you know, Kira, you should talk more about that, but that's going to be so significant because they say that that is a very helpful thing. And so we'd like to do some tests on that, you know, but Kira is the one who really looked up some of the data on that. And then I think there was a little discussion in some previous sessions.
I think that was, if I go back to mine, in the, there was actually quite a few resources on hemp remediation. In this slide I just pulled back up, talked a bit about hemp remediation in Kentucky, and they're using it on old mine fields to see if they can basically extract all of the pollution from the soils and sometimes from the airs with all of the carbon that's released, and make carbon sinks where the carbon goes back in through the roots and into the soil, but also into the plant itself. Obviously can pull heavy metals like lead. And there's been mixed research so far, to answer this person's question, on how usable that hemp is, because it does get affected by taking up the lead. So like if it's taking up lead, is it still safe to use in like clothing? Like would that not get re-released? I don't know the chemistry on that, but I know that it's a question that's still being asked, because there are safety concerns, obviously. And that I think would take someone with a bit more of a biology background than I have, but I do know that it's kind of like, it's very promising, but it hasn't been well developed yet. Oh, thanks for everyone's kind words. Oh, someone said cannabis used for the phytoremediation, so if it pulls up things like heavy metals or oil. can be supplemental aggregate in paved highways. So yeah, as we talked about hemp having so many uses, like maybe you wouldn't use it for obviously eating or like wearing on your direct body, but it has other places that it can go. And yes, the hemp stalks in the greenhouse structure. Let me see if I can get back to my hempcrete. Sorry if the flicking around is overwhelming, just please pop it in the chat. I don't want to be giving anyone a headache. But yeah, as you can see here, the hempcrete is made out of the hemp hurd. So it's the stalk broken up. And that's one of the, I think like 3 ingredients. It's the hemp hurd, which is the center stalk, and then water and lime binder that holds it all together. And then it's packed into this kind of form and then dried, and it becomes installation. It can't hold weight, I believe, for the most part. So that's why there's still the wood, but it becomes like a really helpful installation and replacement for concrete at the foundations of these buildings. I hope that answered the question. Used cover crops with hemp. I'm unfamiliar of the cover cropping. That's more of an agronomy question. As we said, this is kind of like the basis being more of a kind of overview, but I think that would be a really important part to add, like what kind of like companion plants well with hemp, or what to think about in between hemp seasons. I know people are talking about hemp reseeding in one of our sessions earlier. So getting hemp to kind of reseed itself. Like these are all really obviously important considerations to take. But yeah, I think that as it's structured right now, it still needs to be broken up into like more finite modules. And I want to make sure that the resources I used were both a mix of more accessible, like almost textbook-like, as well as things like videos and podcasts to give like a variety of media, but so that they're not prohibitively expensive or behind paywalls. So that's been a bit of a challenge. So if anyone here has really cool resources that would go well into the curriculum or go deep into any of the topics we talked about, that would be great. And I'd love for you to pop them in the chat or email them to me. I can leave my email. But yeah, we're just looking to kind of connect these cool ideas to that kind of ideological overpinning, like we said, of the just transition and the new economy is of hemp. All right, so I don't see any more questions at the moment. It's a little dark in here. Cool. So I guess we could maybe take a short little break before our chef comes on, unless anyone else has questions, or I'm not sure if Winona headed out, but if she wanted to add anything else.
Nope, we're still here.
Oh, awesome. There you are.
I have a question, Kira.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What do you know about the hemp superconductors in the hemp battery field? I think that I've been investigating that for a little bit now. It's incredibly fascinating, like the carbonization of the hemp hurd. Like I know a couple of presenters earlier saying, yeah, we had to get rid of this or they couldn't find a use for it, but it seems like that's going to be a really big deal to learn how to carbonize that stuff and turn it into like a conductive material and paint, where you can basically paint the side of a building with it. You wouldn't even need to put it on like traditional material. It could like be on anything.
That's
As long as it's electrically conductive.
That's exactly right. That's a lot of the work that Jose was presenting, the HempAct system, like way over my brain capacity, but it's going on. So think about the graphing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be in that one.
Is it the graphene or the graph? That's what it is, right, Kira? I think.
Yeah, there was one really good BBC article that covered it. If you just look up kind of like the super capacitor, I'm super unfamiliar with it. I was only introduced to it because of the HempAct stuff. So yeah, I would definitely ask Jose more about that, because I personally just have the very vague knowledge that it's happening rather than the technical knowledge of how it works.
Yeah, it is graphene, Winona. It's graphene that's made from like graphite, and then they do a process, either chemically or heat it, and then that makes it a more electrically conductive, and then you add that to the carbonized hemp hurd, and you combine that and you put some kind of binder in it, a gel, and then you can turn it into a conductive paint or whatever. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, no, it seemed like, and so I just, when John Trudell said hemp is the way, I believe him. It has the answer to just about everything that is out there, is in this plant. And that's why, I'm so grateful that we could have this conference and that we're looking at all these things and, Kira's work, because it's been so, hidden from us, because it is such a powerful plant. And so it's a lot of studious research that, thanks, Kira.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was awesome to learn about everything. It definitely, all my roommates tell me I won't shut up about hemp, and I'm like, why would I? There's so much cool things to know. So
and then that Jackson School, that the University of Washington Jackson School of International Affairs, Patrick Christie and his class put together a curriculum that, a lot of this we have available or is becoming available on our Anishinaabe Agriculture site, because it's really intended to just share this information, because we're all learning. Some people really know a lot, but a lot of our communities are just really trying to understand this plant and the potential of this plant in this time we're in. And so, we intend to we've been working on the curriculum, and there's just so much emergent. That's the other thing I want to say about trying to write a curriculum, when everything is, you're working on the curriculum and like, holy buckets, they found something else new. We'll put that in now, and it's just like, it's, like you open up this one, this one path to learn something. And there's like so many different trails you can go off of it. So that's been one of our challenges, but we wanted to just provide something so that, could just be basic, and right. Just being able to offer it, for people. And we don't really know a lot about, THC and CBD and CBG. That's not really our strong suit. And a lot of people know about that, and that should be taught as well. But this part, about, the materials economy and the phytoremediation, I think that's going to be really important for our tribes. And we really think that's the new green revolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
We decided those are the lines, right? Oh, hey, if you're hanging out now, hey, I have a friend who has a new book out. Oh, we have to get a copy of her book, and she's going to offer one, which is on hemp. It's a hemp cookbook. And so if you want to stay tuned, relax a little bit, and then tune back in. But here in this, in this room, I guess that's what you say. After we go, she's going to come right in here, and she's going to do a little hemp cooking lesson and share a little of yummy hemp food in her cookbook that is printed on hemp paper.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, I will.
Kitchen work. I will turn you, but that's what's going on. We're busy. Kira knows that this is like, there's a lot of cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We're continuing.
I hope those freezers have been well used this time. All right. Well, I think that I will probably see myself off if there's no other questions. I look forward to hanging out and seeing the cooking demonstration goes on later. But yeah, I will leave my email here in the chat. If anyone has suggestions or resources that they want to add to the curriculum, or I think that would be good, kind of just like another path to take in terms of teaching it all. So I'm very much new to hemp and would love to learn from all of you.
Hey, Kira, come.
Yeah.
Come see us soon. The goats and I will be waiting for you.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'll be up soon as this winter, the spring breaks in Toronto, and they'll let me go. Graduation 2021. I'm so excited to see you.
Yes, congratulations, and thanks for all your hard work.
Absolutely. All right, have a good one, everyone. I'll see you around the conference.